Dutch trading posts and plantations in the Americas precede the much wider-known colonization activities of the Dutch in Asia. While the first Dutch fort in Asia was built in 1600, the first forts and settlements on the Essequibo River in Guyana date from the 1590s. Actual colonization, with Dutch settling in the new lands, was not as common as with other European nations. Many of the Dutch settlements were lost or abandoned by the end of the 17th century, but the Netherlands managed to retain possession of Suriname until it gained independence in 1975, as well as the Netherlands Antilles, of which the islands remain within the Kingdom of the Netherlands today. Mainland North America. In 1602, the Republic of the Seven United Netherlands chartered a young and eager Dutch East India Company with the mission of exploring North America's rivers and bays for a direct passage through to the Indies. Along the way, Dutch explorers were charged to claim any uncharted areas for the United Provinces, which led to several significant expeditions and, over time, Dutch explorers founded the province of New Netherland. By 1610, the VOC had already commissioned English explorer Henry Hudson, who, in an attempt to find the so-called Northwest Passage to the Indies, discovered and claimed for the VOC parts of the present-day U.S. and Canada. Hudson entered the upper New York Bay by sailboat, heading up the Hudson River, which now bears his name. In 1614, Adrian Block led an expedition to the lower Hudson River in the Tiger, and then explored the East River aboard the Unrust, becoming the first known European to navigate the Heligat in order to gain access to Long Island Sound. Block Island and Block Island Sound are befittingly named in his honor. Upon his return to Amsterdam in 1614, Block compiled a map, and applied the name New Netherland for the first time to the area between English Virginia and French Canada, where he was later granted exclusive trading rights by the Dutch government. Block quickly ascended and became Manhattan's first monopolist. After some early trading expeditions, the first Dutch settlement in the Americas was founded in 1615, Fort Nassau, on Castle Island along the Hudson, near present-day Albany. The settlement served mostly as an outpost for trading in fur with the native Lenape tribes people, but was later replaced by Fort Orange. Both forts were named in honor of the House of Orange-Nassau. By 1621, the United Provinces had chartered a new company, a trading monopoly in the Americas and West Africa, the Dutch West India Company. The weak sought recognition as founders of the New World, which they ultimately did as founders of a new province in 1623, New Netherland. That year, another Fort Nassau was built on the Delaware River near Gloucester City, New Jersey. In 1624, the first colonists, mostly Walloons and the slaves' band servants, arrived to New Netherland by the shipload, landing at Governor's Island and initially dispensed to Fort Orange, Fort Wilhelmus and Kievetz-Hoek. In 1626, director of the weak Peter Minuit purchased the island of Manhattan from the Lenape natives and started construction of Fort Amsterdam, which grew to become the main port and capital, New Amsterdam. The colony expanded to outlying areas at Pavonia, Brooklyn, Bronx, and Long Island. On the Connecticut River, Fort Hayes-to-Gody Hoop was completed in 1633 at present-day Hartford. By 1636, the English from Newtown settled on the north side of the Little River. In the Treaty of Hartford, the border of New Netherland was retracted to western Connecticut, and by 1653, the English had overtaken the Dutch trading post. Expansion along the Delaware River beyond Fort Nassau did not begin until the 1650s, after the takeover of a Swedish colony, obviously called New Sweden, which had been established at Fort Christina in 1638. Settlements at Fort Nassau and the short-lived Fort Beversey were abandoned and consolidated at Fort Casimir. By 1655, Fort Christina, sitting in what is today Wilmington, had already been renamed Fort Altena. Not all inhabitants of New Netherlands, Manhattan's first European colonizers, were ethnically Dutch, but in reality came from many European countries, along with the staggering number of African native peoples originally brought over bound by the shackles of slavehood. Many New Netherlanders were Walloons, Huguenots, Germans, Scandinavian and English relocated from New England. In 1664, an English naval expedition ordered by Prince James, Duke of York and of Albany sailed in the harbour at New Amsterdam, threatening to attack. Being greatly outnumbered, Director General Peter Stuyvesant surrendered after negotiating favourable articles of capitulation. The province then took a new name, New York. Fort Orange was renamed Fort Albany. The region between the lower Hudson and the Delaware was deeded to proprietors and called New Jersey. The loss of New Netherland led to the Second Anglo-Dutch War during 1665 to 1667. This conflict ended with the Treaty of Breda, which stipulated that the Dutch give up the claim to New Netherlands in exchange for Suriname. From 1673 to 1674, the territories were once again briefly captured by the Dutch in the Third Anglo-Dutch War, only to be returned to England at the Treaty of Westminster. In 1674, Dutch Navy Captain Jurien Enats also briefly captured two forts in the French colony of Acadia, which he claimed as Dutch territory, the new colony of New Holland. However, Enats's appointed administrator, John Rhodes, quickly lost control of the territory after Enats himself left for Curaçao to seek out new settlers, and with effective control of Acadia remaining in the hands of France, Dutch sovereignty existed only on paper until the Netherlands surrendered their claim in the treaties of Nijmegen. Caribbean Sea. Netherlands Antilles. Dutch colonization in the Caribbean started in 1634 on St. Croix and Tobago, followed in 1631 with settlements on Tortuga and Sint Maarten. When the Dutch lost Sint Maarten to the Spanish, they settled Curaçao and St. Eustatius. They regained half of Sint Maarten in 1648, from then on sharing the island with France. The border between the two portions of the island continued to be modified periodically, before being set for good in 1816, Sint Maarten in 1618, Bonaire in 1634, Curaçao in 1634, St. Eustatius in 1636, Aruba in 1637, Saba in 1640, Tortola, Virgin Gorda, Jost van Dyke before 1640. Until deep into the 19th century, the now Venezuelan islands of Aves, the Aves Archipelago, Los Roques and La Orquilla were also considered by the Dutch government to be part of the Dutch West Indies. The Netherlands Antilles remained an overseas territory of the Netherlands. It was granted self-rule in 1954. In 1986, Aruba was granted autonomy, separately from the other islands. On October 10, 2010, the Netherlands Antilles was dismantled. Like Aruba, the islands Curaçao and Sint Maarten became constituent countries of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Bonaire, Saba, and St. Eustatius became special municipalities of the Netherlands. Tobago. The Netherlands made numerous attempts to colonize Tobago in the 17th century. Each time, the settlements were destroyed by rival European powers. Dutch settlements on Tobago, 1628 to 1 January 1637, Fort Vlissingen, massacred by the Spanish, September 1654, January 1666, Forts Lamp-Seensburg, Beveren and Bella Vista, conquered by British, destroyed by French, 1667 to 18 December 1672, Nieuw Vlissingen, destroyed by British. 1st of September 1676 to 6 December 1677, Forts Terratians destroyed by French. Virgin Islands as a group. The islands are known as the Maagdenilanden in Dutch. The Dutch established a base on St. Croix in 1625, the same year that the British did. French Protestants joined the Dutch, but conflict with the British colony led to its abandonment before 1650. The Dutch established a settlement on Tortola before 1640 and later on Anegada, St. Thomas and Virgin Gorda. The British took Tortola in 1672 and Anegada and Virgin Gorda in 1680. South America. Brazil. From 1630 onward, the Dutch Republic gained control of a large portion of northeastern Brazil from the Portuguese. The Dutch West India Company set up the headquarters in Recife. The governor, Johan Moritz, invited artists and scientists to the colony to help promote migration to the new South American colony. However, the Portuguese fought back and won a significant victory at the Second Battle of Gararapes in 1649. On January 26, 1654, the Dutch Republic surrendered and signed a capitulation returning control of all the northeastern Brazil colony to the Portuguese. After the end of the First Anglo-Dutch War in May 1654, the Dutch Republic demanded that New Holland be returned to Dutch control. Under threat of an occupation of Lisbon and a reoccupation of northeastern Brazil, the Portuguese, already involved in a war against Spain, acceded to the Dutch demand. However, the new Dutch political leader Johan de Witt deemed commerce more important than territory, and saw to it that New Holland was sold back to Portugal on August 6, 1661 through the Treaty of The Hague. Chile. In 1600, the Chilean city of Valdivia was conquered by the Dutch pirate Sebastian de Cordes. He left the city after a few months. In 1642, the VOC in Week sent a fleet to Chile to conquer Valdivia and its supposed gold mines. This expedition was led by Hendrik Brouwer, a Dutch admiral. In 1643, Brouwer died before effecting the conquest of the Chiloé archipelago. His lieutenant Elias Herkmans succeeded in capturing the ruins of the city, which he refortified and named Brouwershaven. Finding no gold but many hostile natives, the Dutch soon abandoned the outpost. The second emigration from the Netherlands to Chile was in 1895. Under the so-called Inspector General of Colonization and Immigration Chilean, a dozen Dutch families settled between 1895 and 1897 in Chiloé, particularly in Mecaeco, Hualinco and Chasao. In the same period Hageman Egbert arrived in Chile with his family, the 14th of April 1896, settling in Rio Gato, near Puerto Montt. In addition, family Wenekul, which inaugurated the Dutch colonization of Villarica. In the early 20th century, there arrived in Chile a large group of Dutch people from South Africa, which had been established where they worked mainly in construction of the railway. When the Boer War, which would eventually lead to the British annexation of both republics in 1902, these emigrants decided to emigrate to Chile with the help of the Chilean government. On the 4th of May 1903, a group of over 200 Dutch emigrants sailed on the steamship Oropesa Shipping Company, Pacific Steam Navigation Company, from La Rochelle in France. The majority of migrants were born in the Netherlands. 35% was from North Holland and South Holland, 13% of North Brabant, 9% of Zeeland, an equal number of Gelderland. On June 5, arrived by train to the final destination, the city of Pituquén, located south of Temuco, near the hamlet of Dongel. Another group of Dutchmen arrived shortly after to Talcahuano, in the Oravi and the Orissa. The Netherlands colony in Dongel was christened New Transvaal Colony. there were established more than 500 families in order to start a new life. Between the 7th of February 1907 and February 18, 1909, above the last group of families bores, it is currently estimated at about 50,000 descendants of Dutch, mostly located in Maleko, Gorbea, Pitraquan, Bahamaisen and around Temuco and Osorno, Guyana. As the Dutch West Indian Company built a fort in 1616 on the Essequibo River, the Dutch traded with the Indian peoples and, as in Suriname, established sugar plantations worked by African slaves. While the coast remained under Dutch control, the English established plantations west of the Suriname River. Conflict between the two countries meant parts of the region changed hands a number of times, but by 1796 Britain had control of the region. The Netherlands ceded the colonies of Essequibo, Demerara, and Berbice to Britain in 1814. The colony in Suriname had originally been founded in the 1650s by Lord Francis Willoughby, the British governor of Barbados. It was captured by the Dutch under Abraham Cranston during the Second Anglo-Dutch War. On July 31, 1667, under the Treaty of Breda, the Dutch offered New Netherland in exchange for their sugar factories on the coast of Suriname. In 1683, Suriname was sold to the Dutch West India Company. The colony developed an agricultural economy based on African slavery. England controlled Suriname during the Napoleonic Wars from 1799 until 1816, when it was returned to the Dutch. The Netherlands abolished slavery in 1863 and imported indentured labor from the British Indian colonies and from the Dutch East Indies to keep the economy going. Internal self-governance was granted in 1954 and full independence in 1975. The prospect of independence prompted many to migrate to the Netherlands, especially from the large Hindustani minority. Political instability and economic decline after independence resulted in even more migration to the Netherlands and also to the USA. The Surinamese community in the Netherlands is now almost as large as the population in the country itself.